Hi, I'm Kelly Harris from LC Power Tools. Today, we're going to demonstrate the UDOS 51E, the most versatile machine in the detailing trade. So we're going to use the UDOS 51E to remove the orange peel that's obviously on this hood. Now we've painted this panel in-house to replicate standard orange peel. We could make this worse and we could make it better. Now unfortunately, orange peel happens. There is one way you can sort of avoid it or reduce it without sanding and polishing, and that's through double clear coat lacquering. From my experience, what you do, you actually paint a vehicle or paint a panel, you bake it, you let it settle, you sand it down, then you put more clear coat lacquer on. Very expensive process. It's a very specialist or bespoke high-end vehicle restoration, which we've done in the past. So let's go back to orange peel. Your factory cars will always have this orange peel, this texture finish, which I can see quite clearly here. When we look across an angle and we look at reflection, we see this wave finish, peaks and troughs. What we don't see is very hard to see orange peel in the spotlight that I have above me. There's a round spotlight. That's actually not how you see orange peel. You see it in reflection or a flat, straight light. We want to obtain that perfect reflection. So we've got to sand down the peaks, shave the tops off, and level down till it's flat. So we're going to start with sanding with sandpaper to remove the orange peel. And then I'm going to leave one area up here sanded. Then we're going to rough cut this area. And then I'm going to leave this area. And this final area, I'm going to do the refining. One machine, all work completed. Let's get to it. If you haven't already, why don't you go over to our sister company, Lake Country Manufacturing's YouTube channel. I have a great geeky video that's over an hour long, all on the subject of when to use sandpaper, when to sand down paint. And it's not just for orange peel in that video, there's many other reasons why you'd sand. So the link will be down below, go check it out. So I have the UDOS 51E now set into the S mode for sanding, which is actually an 8mm orbit. I have a 1500 grit sanding disc. I'm going to put some water on there. So it's like damp sanding, it's quite commonly known, sort of not wet sanding, but damp sanding. I'm going to do a little area in the middle there, just to show you the sort of peaks and troughs as they become evident as I'm sanding down. I'm going to turn the speed down low, start at low speed, just get going. What I've done there, it's a nice little square area. I've stopped early instead of keeping moving. I just want to show you the progress, so it's sort of step by step. So I've got a drying blade and I'm going to just drag away the sanding slurry and then mop up with a microfiber towel. And this is hopefully going to help you understand when to stop sanding. And it's simply when you can't see the peaks and the troughs anymore, which is, as that dries and blow dry, I can now see sort of evidence of the peaks and troughs still there. So what we're looking for, if this middle area here is actually completely matte, there's no evidence of little tiny dots or spots. Whereas when I look over here, there is like still the orange peel sort of print, the sort of dots. What you're seeing is the dots are the troughs, the shallows, the bottom, and the matte parts are the peaks. So once you've got rid of all of those dots, so it all becomes matte, then you have a flat surface. So there's no need to sand this middle anymore. So basically what I do now is start again and carry on overlapping. I'm going to do a reasonably fast arm movement because sanding with a machine is quite fast. I'd start with the machine down low and turn the speed up towards about 3.5, 4, just what you feel comfortable with. More importantly is stop and check your progress, because there's no need to sand more than you need to once it's flat. I've finished now sanding this panel with the 1500 grit sandpaper or sanding disc. Now, you could polish that back with really aggressive compound, really aggressive, say, wall pad or your favorite foam pad. Probably a wall pad would be better in this case. But to make this job a little bit easier, I'm going to jump one more grade. So most body shops would use at least 2 grades of sandpaper, or you should be, really, to make your correction polishing easier. So I'm going to then go from 15, basically to 3000 grit. Refine down the sanding marks, and then we can step into the sort of cutting stages. Hopefully you can see, as this all dries out, this is slightly shinier than this area. So I could keep going up in the grades or even sanding for longer and I get a refinement, but obviously that gets silly. So what I'm going to do is going to carry on refining, just get it to that level and then we can polish it back. So for the heavy cutting stage, using UDOS 51E, we have our own UDO pads. This UDO pad is the micro wall pad, heavy cutting pad, very, very short pile. The reason why we've gone short pile is so that when we put on an orbital mode, the large orbits and the rotary, this won't flop around. So this is suitable and compatible for all our modes. I conveniently have a pad obviously ready. I'm actually in a rotary mode, the R mode. So as always start at low speed, spread your compound around and then turn your speed up to whatever you prefer as a speed. Please don't try and do one speed fits all. You know, we've all got a preference. I was very gentle, there was no pressure. I was using the weight of the machine to give me the cut as well. And I actually had the speed down at 1, 2, quite a low speed, just to prove how easy it is to cut with it. So as you can see, the micro wall pad has made light work of the sanding marks. Bear in mind it's one pass, I've just done it, and almost it was like the primed up pass. So scan the area to look for any leftover sanding marks. I have used alcohol, wipe the panel down. You would have noticed rotary buffer lines. Not a surprise. We're using a wall pad and a rotary mode. Of course you're going to get buffer lines. You can't avoid it. Beauty of the UDOS 51E, we could leave that pad with the same compound. Let's switch it into a different mode, orbital polishing mode, or some of you know it as DA mode. Now I've got to choose. Now there's choices. That's one of the sort of things the UDOS does give you, is so many choices. I'm going to go for P1. P1, if you didn't know, is 12mm orbit. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to do a strip through the center and show you the difference, how it's going to leave a micro haze from the orbit polishing, but not the rotary buffer lines. We can now reduce the cut level of our process by a turn of a collar, the blue collar on the UDOS. Now, I'm pretty confident that I know that's going to have a much nicer finish than the buffer line, simply because of the action. It's a less aggressive cutting action having a 12mm orbit compared to a rotary. If you didn't know that, this is the perfect time to say like, subscribe, stay tuned, because we're going to have lots of video content that's going to help you understand all different modes and options for polishing. So let's wipe it down and have a look. So now, you've seen, you have the micro haze. Now, probably to untrained, the micro haze looks worse because it's duller, whereas the rotary area's got these random sort of big circle buffer lines, holograms, skate lines. I actually prefer the micro haze because it's actually millions and millions of overlapping cutting actions, very shallow, not so deep, not so severe. So I find that's easier to polish back. But do you know what? What we're going to do? We're going to refine back both. So I'm now going to refine down this section here. So we've got sanding, heavy cut, refined. So now I'm going to use the UDO olive pad. This is the last step pad to do my refining down. Now, I'm in P1 at the moment. I'm going to go P2, which is 15mm, and see how well that refines down. All refined down now. One thing I had to do, I did end up going to the P1 mode. I was in P2, which is 15mm, so I went down to the 12mm orbit to give me a bit more clarity, mainly because it's gloss black panels, and anyone that's ever polished gloss black, non-metallic paint would understand how easy it is to mar and mark, so we needed the finest cut. So now you've seen all the stages using the UDOS 51E, so basically a recap. We sanded up to there in 2 stages of sandpaper, different grit, 1500 and 3000. Then I masked up, and then I done rough cut with the micro wall pad, the UDO micro wall pad, and we done a mix of rotary and then a DA orbital action to show the difference between rotary and the micro hazing, or micro marring, micro hazing from DA. And finally, we masked up this area and used the last UDO pad, the olive UDO pad, to do the finishing. And we switched from a P2 down to a P1 to finish, basically. So we used pretty much all the modes. I'm not going to end it there. I've got something to show you. Some of you may not know that it's actually 32 years ago that I had my first experience in the body shop or collision repair industry. 32 years ago, I witnessed some of my father's paint technicians sanding down, denibbing and polishing parts of a car, but not the whole car. So I was curious and thought, why don't we do the whole car? I still remember the day I was told, you can't wet sand an entire car. And as an inquisitive young lad, maybe a little bit of annoying young lad to some of the people that's asking these questions, I don't take no for an answer. I wanted to know why. What I found out was it was just takes too long. It's too slow. No one's going to pay for it. Well, I did my own car and I've never looked back since. I've created a business out of sanding down paint and polishing it. My first experience in the body shop was completely sanding by hand my entire car and then polishing it back. And yes, it took weeks and weeks to sand and polish. Over the years, I've built many project cars, 4-doors, 2-door cars, family cars, supercars, hot hatch, rally cars. I've painted multiple cars of all different values, right up to £1 million supercars, down to your single panels. But what we like to do here is always sand and polish because you get the best possible finish. In the UK, I've been told multiple times that My business here in the UK has got some of the best painters, or we make the best finish. When anyone ever sees them, they always go, how did you get that finish that good? It's a little trick here. It's actually not the spray painting, even though it's better to have good spray painting. The way to achieve perfect finishes is always to sand down the paint and polish it. You'll never ever replicate a flawless finish out of a spray gun. Now, as you can see, we have now sanded and polished a panel with the UDOS 51E. Now you've seen the results of what you achieve with sanding and polishing. Do you think it's worth it? Comment down below. Would you do this on your car? Would you do it on a client's car? Would you like to learn how to do this on your own car? All that's left for me to say is, I'm Kelly Harris from LC Power Tools. Thank you for watching and goodbye.